Everybody, we're starting. We're calling the meeting.
It's
Maybe.
party time. Okay. Awesome. So we just wanted to go around first. Well, actually, sorry. First, I wanted to just remind us of why we're here, and practices we're using in the room with each other. So, and this is on the back if you are some folks to look at that. But principles of our NPAs that we're here to practice deep democracy together. We want to nourish difference and diversity, and we want to grow each other. And so the ways that we're gonna help do that is making sure that tonight we collectively honor the agenda together. And if at some point facilitators need to redirect activity to keep us on time and honor those agenda containers, we will do that. We're collectively responsible for cultivating a posture of curiosity when listening, and we support each other in speaking honestly and directly while holding compassion. We will prioritize the voices of those living in our ward as well as those who have not yet spoken. And as just a reminder, we will have a vote tonight. So folks who live in Ward 8 are eligible to vote, and those who are not can listen in, but you won't be able to vote. And then last piece is we allow each other space to speak in sort of rough draft. So to kick us off, yes, and can Linda or Allie, can you tell us if you can hear us okay?
I can hear you just fine.
Beautiful. Okay, so I will kick off by going around the room and folks can introduce yourselves. You can say your name and maybe what street you live on. So I can get started. We can go around. I'm Amy Malinowski. I live on South William Street and I'm on the steering committee.
Yeah, Tom Carroll, South Union Street, also on the steering committee.
Caroline, I actually live in Ward 1 on Riverside.
Floyd Campbell, currently summer housing, so I'm in Ward 1 living and learning.
Jeffrey Peterson, Ward 3 on Monroe Street.
Sarah Montgomery, I work for the city clerk's office.
Barbara Turnbull, I'm the NPA coordinator for the city.
Charlie, you want to introduce yourself?
So I'm Charlie G. I live in Ward 2 and I record all the NPA meetings.
We can go around and then go.
Robert Goulding, I work for the Department of Public Works. I used to live on Decatur Street, but no longer in Burlington.
Hi, Stephen Cheese, South William Street.
Peter McLaughlin, Ward 8, Orchard Terrace for 8 months. Before that, Wards 5, 3, 2, and 6. Came to UVM in the mid-70s.
I'm Lisa Lex and I live on Ward 1 and I'm here today as a guest.
And then we have two people online. Do we want to go Linda and then Allie?
Yeah, my name is Linda Risby. I live on Hungerford Terrace in Ward 8.
And hey there, I'm Allie Schachter, the East District City Councilor. I'm sorry I'm not there in person tonight. We're juggling some childcare Little League game needs, but happy to be here with you all and happy to answer any questions or share any updates about council business if helpful. Great to see you all.
Thank you.
Awesome. So we can use the next about 10 minutes or so for public forum. So if anyone or announcements. So if anyone has something you want to share that's interesting to ward residents, whether it's like an event that's coming up or maybe it's like an appreciation or a concern you want to share out, you are welcome to do that.
Got all big at once. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, do I need to do mic or something?
Yeah,
You're listening. Yeah.
I unfortunately, it's not.
It's for the people on Zoom. It doesn't.
Oh,
actually
okay,
matter.
okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to go, but the Burlington cleanup crew had its birthday and it was very wholesome. I saw online, so shout out to them. They're wonderful people and I hope to get more involved soon.
I was at the Burlington Cleanup Crew birthday party this morning and it was super awesome. So I'd encourage everyone to come out. My name is Jeffrey. I'm running for state rep in the Chittenden 16 district, which just has about a 2-block overlap with Ward 8. I'm definitely more involved in like my local NPA and haven't shown up here before. So it's nice to see a lot of familiar faces and meet those of you I haven't yet. But I'm running on a platform of permanently affordable housing, universal health care, and fully funded public transit. I grew up in Burlington. I actually got involved in my NPA growing up in high school. I was on the Ward 4-7 steering committee, so I have deep respect for what you all are doing here and appreciate it. Nice to see you. Thanks.
So just repeat your name and what you're in.
Yeah, Jeffrey Peterson, candidate for state rep in Chittenden 16.
Thank you.
We just have a voting PSA from the clerk's office, which is that people might not know that for the primary, you will not get a ballot sent to you automatically. You have to request it. You can do that at vote.vermont.gov. The ballots are mailed out starting June 29th, and that is also the day when you can start early voting in person right here at City Hall.
Do you know when if the ballots start going out on June 29th, do you know when you would have to like request it by?
Yeah, you can request it anytime.
Anytime.
Now until the Friday before. Right?
Anyone else?
Is this
Okay.
the chance? I have a question. Is this a good time for me to just share a couple announcements of things going on the council level, or should I wait?
Yeah, sure. We have a few minutes left over in the forum, so yeah, please. Thank you.
Sorry, guys, I was having trouble unmuting. I'll just share really a couple quick updates. One is that we are in budget season, so we're working hard to pass the fiscal year 27 budget by June 30th. There's been a lot of really hard work done. I think you've probably all seen the headlines that we started this budgeting season with a $10 to $12 million budget gap, and we've closed it. So we're doing some sort of final rounds of negotiations and seeing what levers that we might kind of push on a little bit here and there, but by and large, we're kind of in the closing end of budget season, which is great and has been a tremendous amount of work. So I just sort of want to name that. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. And then a couple other quick updates. I think I was texting with Councilor Broderick before the meeting and he's not able to join, but you all probably remember the UVM housing resolution that he brought forward in the fall that had unanimous support from the council. We passed an ordinance, I think at our last city council meeting, sort of reaffirming how we're going to hold our university partners accountable to abiding by our minimum housing standard rules. And so there's some new interesting work being done there. It's been, I think it was a really good conversations with the Department of Permitting and Inspections and Champlain and UVM college administrations. And lots of student input. So I feel like that was a great thing for the city. And I also brought forward a couple meetings ago a resolution reinstating our aging council, which had been formed in 2021 and then had brought forward a really robust report for the city to consider around ways that we can be supporting our growing senior population. Sort of since that report was brought forward a year ago, there's been transitions on the side of the city with regards to who was staffing the Aging Council. And it took us a while to sort of land that plane, but the Aging Council is officially now being staffed by the REIB office, and it's been formally reinstated. And our hope is that it can provide some really good pathways to implementing a lot of the recommendations that were in the Age Strong BTV report that they brought forward a year ago, and provide us some real guidance on sort of what are the needs of our senior community regarding transportation and housing and recreation and other things. And this is a really growing and significant population of ours in Burlington. So I think that was a win. So I'll just give those kind of three highlights for now. There's a lot going on the council level, and happy to answer questions, but glad to be with you all.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Allie. I will say a last announcement unless anyone ends up having something come to mind. But often wards, NPAs will pause during the summer. So we will be doing that as well. So this will be our last meeting for the summer. And then we will resume in September. And so we'll talk a little bit more about what we will be doing over the summer in a bit. But in lieu of that, I just wanted to announce two things to have on your radar. So Ward 1 NPA is hosting a candidate forum for the Vermont Senate. And so that will be on June 10th at 7:30. And so residents from our ward are very welcome to attend. So if you're curious about that, I will include a link in the minutes. And then the other thing to put on your calendar is the NPA, sort of all wards are working together to host a state's attorney forum. And that's booked in the Contois Auditorium on July 29th. So more details to come on that, but you can also put that in your calendar, and that again will also be in the minutes. So yeah. We have about 3 minutes left. So if anyone has one last thing you want to share before we move to budget proposal, speak now.
Okay,
Okay, let's move.
yeah, we'll do it.
Cool.
Okay, so we're going to share this this segment. We Ward 8, as you know, is relatively recently affected by the redistricting, and I say recently, it's probably been 2 or 3 years. And since that time, we've been in a rebuilding mode, and we're at a moment of wanting to facilitate greater involvement among the community, among a diversity of our community, and that would include the university community and young people, youth, more broadly speaking, as well as longtime residents and older residents. And so in a sort of a little confab that we had here several meetings ago, we sat and talked and had some pizza. We didn't have anyone attending that meeting, any other residents apart from ourselves. And it was not exactly a wake-up call because the history has been more or less spotty in that respect. But we did have a discussion, and among other strategies that we came up with, one that our friend Charlie G recommended, or I think proposed, was that we think about developing an internship program for the ward. And we didn't flesh that out very much at that meeting, but Amy and I have been talking since then. We've met with some other people, including some potential interns, and have come up with a proposal to use the remainder of our budget for this fiscal year to hire 2 interns who will begin working in June, next week, at I think about 15 hours a week, to do a couple of things, to create first of all, to create a plan, to do some organizing, to contact residents and people in the community, to work with programs and ongoing organizations to make contact and create warm contacts for Amy and I to follow up on at some point later. And these would be local organizations, organizations and components of the university community and the college communities here, so that we could begin to create a kind of a discourse and also a kind of institutionalize a relationship with those groups. So we're thinking we're going to take a vote on this tonight, but we're thinking we'd like to facilitate this internship. We're going to see what we come up with in June. And if possible or need be, we'll continue this later in the fall with next year's budget. I will say that we've raised this at an all boards NPA meeting, And we've had private discussions with other people in other wards, and there seems to be a lot of interest among other steering committee members in other wards in this process, because we think it's a way to, I think that I want to be careful of my language here, but I think it's a way to think more broadly about the paradigm that MPAs operate within, and also to return in certain fundamental ways to the original concept of the NPA, the neighborhood planning assemblies, as constituted in the 1980s and 1990s. And so we're thinking that this is an opportunity for us to begin to develop our constituencies and participation in our activity, and also an opportunity for all the wards to think about a dialogue and some strategizing about how to do more. Now, I say I'm choosing my words carefully because many of the wards are already doing a lot. They have a lot of participation. They have a lot of programs. They have abundant and vigorous meeting activity, but there's always more to do, and there's always more kinds of things to do. And so our plan is to vote tonight on hiring 2 interns, get them busy starting next week, and see what we come up with. And we do have a plan, which we've posted, kind of a working plan, job description that's posted online. We want to take a vote tonight to consider that and to pass that and get moving with it next week. So Amy, do you have something to add to that?
I think, yeah, I think to go specifically for the numbers. So we have, and it says this on your agenda, we have $2,400 roughly left on our budget out of the 3,000 that we get every year. And then there's a renewal of like a zine that's used for marketing. So that there was a request from the CEDO office to be able to renew that zine and pay the artist to do that. So that would be $100. And then the remaining amount we would use for what we're calling the NPA organizing and outreach interns. And as Tom was saying, we're really planning to just have like a June sprint and see what we can get done. It will be really exciting, hopefully, for them to be able to like come up with sort of a presentation at the end, maybe with what they've done, and maybe we can bring that back and have them present back to us in the fall, that kind of a thing. We really want to make sure we'll be transparent about the work that gets done in that time. And then because of some complexities that Barbara and Sarah have both been amazing about trying to figure out, because this is the first time this has been done, to my knowledge, that an NPA has used their budget in this way. So there's been some like technical, like trying to figure out. So things have to be expensed in the time year that they're in. So we did originally want to sort of use our money across the summer, but it has to be done by June 30th. So what we did want to do is say, depending on how things go, maybe we'll want to continue into July, August, or September a little bit, not at the same intensity. And so we just wanted to sort of earmark $1,000 from up to $1,000 from the next year's budget that we might use, might not. And so just because we do need to vote on that, we won't be meeting before that would come into play. So that's why. But yeah, I think it's pretty exciting. And
So if I could add, and thank you for that, the transparency aspect and the budgetary aspects are things that I just didn't think about as I was presenting this. But one thing I will say is that Amy mentioned some sort of a presentation afterwards, and we're thinking that could take several forms, one of which could be at an all wards NPA meeting so that we can share whatever we learn with the other NPAs, which I think would be really valuable. And of course, then connecting with our NPA in September when we reconvene. We're also thinking that there could be a lot of, we think, robust back and forth between the various constituencies, the university community. There may be some programs, faculty, some other individuals running programs at UVN or Champlain College who could then pick up the ball and carry this forward in their programs, and then we could have that cross-fertilize with us at a presentation at a ward meeting or various ward meetings. So we're thinking that there are so many possibilities here, and we're very excited about it. And we're hoping we're going to put this to a vote now and ask anyone from Ward 8.
Yeah.
Is this how we do this? Can we call for a vote?
So does someone have to make a motion for it to go to a vote, or do we make a motion?
And
I have a question now.
Okay, cool. So do we have to say we want a motion to go to a vote and then like take questions, or I don't know.
Yeah.
Have to do that.
And let me say, if I could say, thank you, if I could say one other thing, Linda, before you ask your question or make your comment. In many cases, Barbara could affirm or maybe correct me on this, but the NPAs often tend not to utilize their entire budget in a fiscal year.
Yeah.
We've had years, at least one year, where we helped another ward who had an overrun in their budget. But we've also had reports from other wards that they've turned back their money. And if we don't use the money, it goes back into the city budget. And so we feel that it's our responsibility to use this money in a productive and responsible way. And so it's another kind of dimension of this proposal that we're making. Linda, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no problem. So I just want to say what a good idea I think this is, and I want to commend you for coming up with it. I did a stint on the steering committee for Ward 1 and 8 some years ago, and no one ever had an idea like this, and I just think it's a really great idea. And I wanted to ask whether or not any money needs to be set aside for any initiatives, or is this for any plan or suggestions that might be approved or whatever would be for a forward fiscal year?
I think, are you asking, would we need, so basically at the end of June, our $3,000 is gone, whether we use it or not. And
I see.
then starting, July, we now have $3,000 again. But for a big expenditure like this, I know it's a little bit vague, like when NPAs have their bodies vote on budgetary expenses, but because this is a bigger expense, we did want to make sure people voted on it. So that's why we included the potentially we might dip into next year's up to a certain amount, and we wanted folks to be aware of that and vote on that since we won't be meeting during the summer. Yeah.
But
I understand the budget needs to be voted on. I was actually asking something else, but I think it's pretty clear that no money needs to be set aside for any initiatives out of these funds.
I think, I think I caught that. And what I'm thinking is that that's premature at this point, but that this work could lead to our be able to conceptualize, a relevant initiative at some point down the line and budget accordingly.
For the next fiscal year.
Yeah. So one of the things we're thinking, so mostly big expenses seem to be rent and food. So we did do a little budget mock-up for next year and be like, what if we did use up to $1,000? Like how much would, try to figure that out. But what we're hoping is that by the chunk of work that we do in June, maybe we'll have a better sense of if we are meeting in a different location, what would the rent be like and all of that. So then we can have a better sense of what the true budget will be. But we definitely want to be really cautious about not putting ourselves in a situation where we can't afford to print more materials or get food or, whatever the different initiatives are. So yeah, we want to be careful about that. That's why we were we don't want to commit to using a certain amount for next year because we're not sure.
Right. Yeah, we'll be conservative in that way. One of the things that we'll do over the summer is look to identify an alternative meeting location from this location to somewhere else in our ward. this is Ward, what is this, Ward 3 here? We're in Ward 3. So yeah, so we're working on that as well.
Did that answer your question?
I think I have the answer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. That's, yeah, helpful.
Any other comments on this before we move to a vote? Okay, so let's vote. So how many Ward 8 residents, I'll ask you to weigh in on this. Do you vote, who will vote yes for this proposal?
I'm in favor of the vote.
Linda?
Did you need a motion?
Oh, well, we don't know.
Okay, I move that we adopt this budgetary expense.
Okay, thank you. Second the motion, anyone second?
Steven seconds.
Steven, okay. Okay, now, thank you, Linda. Now we'll take our vote. So we have 2 votes in favor. I vote in
And-
favor.
And I vote in favor.
Beautiful.
Okay, looks like it passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thanks.
Yay! And now, 2 minutes late, but sorry, updates from Department of Public Works. Do you want to be where you are, or do you want to come a little?
Happy to go right over there. So thank you, Ward 8 and the steering committee for having having DPW here to present tonight. We have a lot going on in the city by way of construction, which brings a lot of good things for the community and will also bring, of course, the short-term impacts that we want you to be prepared for. At the same time, we want to share a little bit of information about what we're working on, how we develop those plans, and of course, how to stay in touch with us if you encounter challenges either with construction season or as the year goes on. So move on to the next slide here. The big news to share is that Main Street and the Champlain Parkway are both wrapping up in a matter of weeks. We are expected to bring these projects in on time, on budget, and are looking forward to celebrating with the community. We have a bunch of events lined up, more news to come about that, but these are going to be community-focused events to celebrate the finality of the projects and all of what we think are the benefits that come along with this work. So thank you for your patience. These were big projects, multi-year, multi-ward, citywide projects, and we thank you for helping us get to the finish line. A little bit about these projects. As you may or may not know, the Champlain Parkway is literally decades in the making. It started as envisioned as a highway that would cut us off from the waterfront, a multi-lane roadway. It's evolved into a 25-mile-per-hour road. It's got stormwater benefits, multimodal benefits, crosswalks, bump outs, which shorten the crossings. And we think while no project is ever perfect, we think this is a far better project and delivers real benefits for the community. We're already seeing the potential for renewed investment in the South End by way of more housing, hopefully more commerce, and just a better quality of life for residents that already live or use this area. Next slide, please. We have a few things to do to wrap things up. Generally, this is mostly finished work. We're redoing a few sidewalks that the contractor didn't quite do to spec. That happens at times, so no real foul. They're doing it on their own dime, but we have a great inspection service to make sure these projects are delivered to the community at the right value that we've insisted on. So more to come. You'll see a little bit more work going on here and there, but like I said, by late spring, early summer, we'll be wrapped up on both sections of the project. The road will be fully opened, including the interstate connection. Next slide. We are finishing up the gateway into Vermont's biggest city, into Burlington. We are pleased to be wrapping up Main Street. There are wider sidewalks, new pavements, bike lane connection at raised sidewalk height to give a little bit more comfort and safety to cyclists down Main Street, more trees, stormwater enhancements, better lighting, And I think the big picture that most people know about, but maybe we haven't dwelled long enough on, is the abandonment of a large section of the Ravine sewer. This is a 30-foot deep brick-lined sewer that was built before the Brooklyn Bridge, and a modern city cannot be built on top of 19th century infrastructure. We couldn't allow development on top of where this sewer ran. We're now hoping that this is going to unlock the potential for, again, more housing, perhaps commerce, and just more potential for the city to have a 21st century city in its downtown. You may have heard that stalled out and took a lot of time, and that certainly took longer than expected given the magnanimity of that construction and engineering element. It was the most challenging thing I think we've worked on, perhaps ever. But we've been able to catch up with the contractor, which is why we can confidently say we are on time, on budget, on Main Street. Next slide. We'll actually skip over this: sidewalks, signs, tree plantings, paving, and public art, all the things you'd expect as finished work on a project. But we are quickly coming to wrap that up. Here's a quick imperfect snapshot of a decade's worth of work in Ward 8. We started doing a lot of these very similar style NPA tours almost a decade ago after the passage of an initial round of large capital bonds that really funded our work and brought our ability out to do a lot more enhanced paving and sidewalk, which I'll talk a little bit more about on the next slide. So in 2025, the voters of Burlington spoke pretty decisively and passed a handful of very large and important capital bonds, which are funding a lot of work in the city and a lot of DPW's work, which is a main reason we wanted to come today, just to let you know how we're putting that money out on the street to benefit the city. So there was a $20 million general obligation bond, and a really large wastewater, stormwater bond I'll talk more about. And I'll try to be quick because I know time is always short, especially when I talk long. So the season, of course, has started on sidewalks. We've been redoing and pouring sidewalk for weeks now, starting in the Old North End. This year, we have a $1.65 million contract. In addition to about a mile worth of short run work we'll do in-house, that's going to allow us to do about 3 miles of sidewalk this year. We have 130 miles of sidewalk in the city. Concrete can last roughly 40 years. Now that depends on soil conditions and use and a whole host of factors, but roughly 40 years. And a sustainable schedule of sidewalk renewal gets us to about 3 or so miles per year, which is why that's generally been a target of ours that we've largely been able to reach for the last decade or so. There's always more to do, and we know that the sidewalk network, we're still catching up from years of deferred investment. But the contract this year is largely funded by the town meeting day bond, which goes to show what the support of voters was able to help us get out on the street. Next slide, we'll share a little bit of how we developed that work plan. We get this question a lot, and a main challenge we have is we know there's more to do than we can do in any given year. There are factors like funding, weather, available contractors that can sometimes be in the way of doing as much as we want to do. But really what we do is we have roughly every 5 to 8 years, we do a mechanical assessment of the entire 130 miles of sidewalk. We use a machine that will kind of scour every dip, crevice, crack in the sidewalk, measure that in addition to field inspections and see-click fix or customer service reports you make to help us put together a compendium of our sidewalk network and what condition that's in. We then prioritize things based on utilization of the sidewalk, location, sidewalk condition. Is it downtown? Is it near senior centers? Is it near schools? What condition, of course, is it in? We don't want to redo great sidewalk. We don't want to leave lingering sidewalk as well. So we also consider other things like, is it near a project that we're already devoting resources to and will help us capture economies of scale to kind of redo that sidewalk? So a lot goes into the whole sidewalk work plan. You can see what we've got developed on the next slide for our contractors list this year. Hopefully these are sidewalks you find yourself walking by or walking through. A lot of work we're pleased to bring. This does not include a bunch of short run segments that we will do with, as I mentioned, with our in-house crew, and that list will evolve as the season goes on. Do you notice a safety repair? Well, first off, any truly urgent safety repair, give us a call. Don't rely on, we love see-click fix, and I think we see everything that comes through there, but give us a call if you think something's really dangerous. Otherwise, during the year, we will be able to occasionally add more to our work plan. So it's beneficial to us if we hear from you about things you think we may have missed or that have been deferred for too long. Next slide, we'll talk quickly about paving. We have been paving. We are currently on Main Street and College Street with paving projects. We just finished Colchester Avenue. We have a $1.7 million contract, which is also largely funded by the town meeting day bond that voters approved in 2025. We have about 3.5 miles planned this year. We have 90-ish miles of roads in the city. We are behind, of course, and with deferred investment from many years of not catching up to the work we're on. We try to plan for about 4 miles per year based on funding. We're a little short of that this year because most of the bond money is going out over the next 3 years. So we think we can have a more robust list developed for the next few years, but 4 miles is really the minimum target we want to hit to be on a more sustainable schedule. Next slide, I'll just be brief about, but it's similar to the sidewalk work plan. It's probably a little harder to read from here. This is available online, and of course we can answer more questions, but we have a similar prioritization matrix where we catalog the network condition of every street. You can actually see this in a rough snapshot at burlingtonvt.gov/construction, where we have a series of maps, but one of which is our capital map that will let you look at the condition of the sidewalk and paving network just to see what your local sidewalks are like. Are we getting it right with the work plan we're bringing forward to the community? Next, I do want to add, we were pleased to see multiple competitive bids this year, which is great for being able to put our money out in an efficient way on the street to do more paving. That's unlike recent years where inflation and lack of contractor availability has really kind of hampered our ability to be as productive as we wanted. But with that said, there are always potential headwinds to pay attention to. Geopolitically, we can't control fuel prices. That is going to challenge construction as the years go on if that doesn't kind of equalize. So there's always things we need to monitor in the field of construction. This is our paving list, which includes a few leftover streets from 2025. It includes additional patching work, much like sidewalk work, and I've mentioned this at all the NPAs. Feels a little less relevant as we're now kind of fully getting into spring and summer, but we emerged from a really cold, frigid winter. CAX calls it the coldest winter in 19 years. That challenges our infrastructure because of all the freeze thaw that happens underground. It especially impacts pavement and the pipes that are underground. We had quite a few water main breaks this year. All that ground movement when the water and the snow unfreeze, creates a lot of movement, challenges the infrastructure. So we do add patches as the winter kind of evolves, and we're always able to take on your requests to do at least some short-term pothole repairs, or as the season evolves, if there's reserve funding available and weather is friendly, we can add more to our patching list. Next slide. Just really quickly, we have a bunch underway for water. I am certain our water resources team wants to talk to you directly, so you may or may not hear from them soon if they put in a request, but we are already underway with significant upgrades to the wastewater treatment plants. We've done a lot over the last few years, but we're really now starting the big capital work that should renew our 3 wastewater plants for the next generation. And that's going to include things like tertiary treatment, which will help capture and remove phosphorus, which is a driver of the blue-green algae that's been a real impact to Lake Champlain recently. With that said, that's us doing our part. There is a watershed-wide problem, other municipalities, other industries that also contribute to that nutrient loading in Lake Champlain. So we are trying to do our part, but there is a watershed-wide kind of issue that we all need to work together as a state on. We have water main improvements and stormwater outfall repairs. So much more to come. Next slide will be a little hard to see, but this lays out the capital planning effort and what you can expect to see with that very large water and lake bonds that rolled out during town meeting day, and how they're going to fund the next few years of investments that should set us up to have a 21st century wastewater system in the city. Next slide. Couple great things you can do for water, you can do for your area or household. We partner in 2 great networks. One is the Blue BTV network. You can get a free stormwater assessment on your property, which will give you an idea of best practices and things you can implement at home to help you manage your stormwater better, potentially contributing to you and the city's kind of overall stormwater efforts. You can also adopt a drain. If you have a nearby catch basin or storm drain, you can help unclog it. The network, they use, and I keep forgetting to check into this. We used to send some nifty gear, but we'll certainly send some best practices and safe ways to clear those catch basins. Not everybody can do that. We always encourage you to just reach out to us if you see a catch basin or storm drain in need of clearing or repair. Ahead of major storms, we have our crews out there with the known trouble spots, but hearing from you with eyes on the street always helps us be a little bit more responsive. And finally, the next slide is just how you can stay in touch with us. We do encourage the use of SeeClickFix. It's an app and a web-based service to report the short-term things that we can get to within a day or two. Pothole repairs, catch basin cleaning, is it snowing? Is it icy? Do you need some kind of help from a plow on your street? Let us know, generally through SeeClickFix, but you can also call or email. So it's not the only way, of course. Customer service is a great way for complaints, concerns, compliments, or anything you need to talk to Public Works about. And then in the middle there for construction impacts, we use Front Porch Forum. We will use signage around the city when we're paving, we're doing other kinds of work on the street where you'll at least know something's coming. And then we try to make regular use of VT Alert and encourage you to sign up for that. Might not be for everybody. We do have about 20 to 23,000 people signed up on that from around the state for Burlington alerts. So that's of interest to you. We encourage you to sign up. And that's all I've got. If there's time, I'm happy to take questions, or we're always happy to come back as well. So thank you so much for having us here.
Thank you.
Yeah, we have about 3 minutes, so.
I have so how many people have adopted drains, citywide in Ward 8?
That's a great in-depth question that I don't know, but we do the map. If you go to that website, you can see where the drains are and how many have been adopted. We have hundreds of people signed up right now. So, but there are, there's many more catch basins to go.
That's good organizing for the NPA. Simple thing, we're gonna drain, because I've seen drains that are totally clogged with leaves, and I just kick them out.
Yeah, well, that's helpful as long as you're safe about it.
Right, okay, thank you.
Thank you, yeah.
I just, first I have a compliment. I live in Ward 1 and my street has been affected by the paving on Colchester Avenue. And it's a bear. However, I think the communication about that through Front Porch Forum has been great. It was timely and gave us a chance to think about different routes, and so kudos.
Thank you.
To you on that. I had a question about the rain gardens. And has that been a Burlington, the city project, and how do those work?
Yeah.
Can you quickly say something about that?
Absolutely. The rain garden projects, now there've been many over the years. We had a few in the Old North End about a decade ago. We did about a dozen in the hill section that were really significant in helping us decrease the quantity of CSOs, combined sewer overflows, that happened at the Pine Street CSO. We have a few on St. Paul that went in about 5 years ago. Main Street, I think we have 2 that have gone in over the last year and a half, more around the city. So depending on what you're talking about, they are a city project, generally run from the stormwater program, often done as a corresponding project when we have other construction going on. And what they're meant to do is to help absorb, capture, redirect, or slow water flow into our system, stormwater flow into our system, and usually can help kind of capture some of the nutrient pollution. We do also maintain it as a city, which has been as anything we newly build, we have to have good maintenance plans. So there are often kind of maintenance challenges between us and the Parks Department, which helps us maintain them to make sure they're kind of freshly spruced up every spring, weeded and things like that. But they're a potentially significant benefit from a green stormwater perspective and how much they can slow storm flows during major storms and decrease nutrient pollution. But if I didn't answer your question.
Yeah, no, that's helpful.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Hi, Mitch Lloyd, thank you again for coming. And like the vital work that your department does. I wanted to touch on, I guess, like safety and comfortability real quick. and like how important that is for like encouraging people to walk or bike. As an example, like I was walking in downtown like the other week and almost got hit by a car because there was like no fresh like crosswalk. And then the next street over, there's like a perfectly freshly paved crosswalk. And I realized like how much this impacts like drivers' compliance with being friendly to pedestrians. And that's the same with bike lanes and all that. Then I also wanted to reiterate the transparency and communication piece, especially with your guys' geographic maps online and like being able to go in and see in like literally the satellite view of whether it's the sidewalks or the streets or whatever it may be. Both the communication, as was said, alongside the transparency and seeing what's going on, what needs to be done, has been awesome as you continue to expand that. So thank you. Question regarding future development. The walk bike path is of course very expensive and very masterful, as they call it. So I'm curious on what upcoming developments or expansions are farthering that. I know there was what was it called? The north route that went alongside Intervale, I think is advancing. And I'm wondering what other routes are going to be upcoming for this year.
Yeah, it's a great question. It is one of those things we have been somewhat challenged by. We had a Union Street protected bike lane that we put in 2017, which was really challenged by turning movements from buses, which we don't want to discourage, of course, but also by large kind of fire department apparatuses, BED truck, Burlington electric trucks, and then just general winter maintenance. It's partly the materials we chose couldn't withstand the winter. It's partly Burlington was built in the 18th, 19th century. It wasn't built the way like Salt Lake City or Western cities were built with these giant rights of way. So we are very challenged in building out this infrastructure everywhere we want. Now, that's not an excuse. That's just one of the things we grapple with. We did take a road trip up to Montreal to kind of view all of the impressive infrastructure they've been able to put in, understand the challenges that they've had with putting it in, maintaining it. But to specifically answer your question, we are very excited to open up Main Street. We have a protected raised bike lane that's coming online in just a matter of weeks on Main Street. That'll at least run through the heart of downtown. We do have the Intervale side path, which is, I think, mostly funded, probably a few years out on construction. We also have a Lake Street shared use path, I believe, similar to Intervale. I think we have funding identified, but it is also itself a few years out. We last year were able to put in a few things like bump outs to help with pedestrian comfort, bike lanes on Home Ave and Manhattan Ave, not quite the protection that I think cyclists like all of us would prefer. And that's a great question. I'm trying to think. We don't have and then last year we were also able to put in a large segment on North Champlain Street, which is protected. We're making some modifications to that to be more compliant with Burlington Fire Department's kind of requirements. But we're looking at that. We hardscape the Old North End Greenway, which is a low kind of stress route to get, through the Old North End to the waterfront. And then we have a few traffic calming projects coming online this year, including on Elmwood Avenue, where we'll put in parking chicanes so that cars can't just zoom down the street. Instead, parking is staggered so that cars are forced to kind of weave through parked cars. We found that to be successful on a few other recent installations. And that's from the top of my head what we've got right now for the big picture transportation projects, but I think it's an important question. So thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I guess we'll move on to Peter McNeil.
So I'm Peter McCauliffe. I've been involved with 350 Vermont for a couple of years. Also Third Act, which is an elder group on preserving democracy and climate change, climate disruption. And then a small group called Stop VT Biomass, very small, not 5 or 10 of us. And Lisa and I attend the Chittenden node meetings of 350 Vermont, and Lisa's done several presentations at other wards. I've attended them, and I've gone through it. So I think Lisa will present most of it, but I'm going to chime in on some of the slides.
Okay,
That sound good?
yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Peter's already said who I am,
Oh, yeah.
that
Yeah.
I'm also a volunteer
Right.
with both of these organizations.
And one more thing, so if you want more information from either Lisa and I, please, sign up here. We can keep this at the door, not obligated, for any questions that we don't know the answers of. Okay? All right.
And it also, we may have future events too, but
Correct.
why don't we go ahead and explain why we're here?
Slide.
So, Peter and I are very passionate about this project. Personally, I'm very concerned about climate change and about the emission of greenhouse gases and carbon in our atmosphere. And so that's how I became involved in this, and Peter similarly. But we're here to make a case for why the McNeil plant needs to be closed. So the next slide. We have a quote here from Bill McKibben. Do people know who Bill McKibben is?
Yeah.
He's one of my heroes. And when asked about burning wood for electricity in Burlington, he said, "Burning wood for electricity is a bad idea. The science has changed a lot since Burlington started doing it decades ago, and it makes sense to phase it out, not incentivize it." So just some basic information about the McNeil plant. Has everyone heard about the McNeil plant? Yeah, so it's just some quick basics. It started operation in June of '84. It's located in the Intervale, and it burns wood to generate electricity, and it's the largest electricity generator in Vermont. And it's jointly owned by Burlington Electric, which is a city-owned company, and Green Mountain Power and Vermont Public Supply Authority, but BED is the primary owner. And it provides 32 to 45% of Burlington Electric's total power supply, for 2015 to 2023. But that's a little bit misleading, and we can address that if anybody has a question about it. Next slide. So the reason we want to close McNeil or see it closed is because it is the largest stationary source of greenhouse gas emissions in Vermont. And it really contributes to climate change. And it's harmful to health. It emits particulate matter and other pollutants, which leads to or exacerbates health conditions. It has a negative impact on our forest ecosystems. It costs a lot, and it's old and inefficient. So first, we'll address the greenhouse gas emissions. So you'll see in the lower part of the slide information about how much CO2 McNeil emits. And in 2025, it was 316,405 tons. That's somewhere between 7,000 and 8,000 tons per every resident in Burlington. That's a pretty shocking figure, I think. And it also emits lesser amounts of greenhouse gases, methane, and nitrous oxide. And this doesn't count the carbon that gets emitted with transporting the wood chips to the plant, or and getting it out of the forests. So the above quote is from a group of scientists, a bulletin. It's an academic publication. The quote is, "Burning wood to generate electricity emits more carbon dioxide per kilowatt hour generated than fossil fuels, even coal, the most carbon intensive fuel." I did not know this until I got involved with this project. That's pretty shocking to me, and obviously very critical. So for years, we've been operating under this myth that McNeil is carbon neutral because Burlington Electric engages in sustainable forestry. And the carbon dioxide emissions from its stack are resequestered by trees as they regrow. That's the idea, but this is a myth. When trees are burned, the carbon dioxide is released immediately, and it takes decades to centuries to, so you've cut down the trees, you're emitting carbon from cutting down the trees, and that carbon is not going to be reabsorbed by the trees until they've been planted and they've grown over decades. So that's where the myth comes in. And also, we can't guarantee that there are going to be trees that are planted to replace the ones that are cut down, or that those trees that do get planted are going to survive. So it's, it's maybe a good press, but it's not really accurate. So the next slide. And this is a graphic that has been used by Burlington Electric that kind of promotes this idea that the carbon from burning wood is more easily absorbed by trees than the carbon that's emitted by fossil fuel burning. And that's not true. Carbon is carbon. It gets absorbed by the trees or not, no matter where it comes from. Okay, so next slide. And the reality is that wood burning power plants emit more carbon per unit energy and also degrades the forest carbon sink. And you'll see on this, the graphic on the right, the top is wind or solar, and that emits less carbon. The middle is fossil fuel. That's the next highest carbon. And then the biopower scenario is you're emitting carbon and you're also degrading the forests. So in addition to producing greenhouse gases and fueling climate change, it also burning wood causes other ecological harm. Cutting down trees, it basically destroys the forest. And Burlington Electric has claimed that they only harvest wood chips and residues from the tops and limbs of trees left over from higher value wood products. But actually, we've seen contracts that show that they are engaging in whole tree chipping. And the plant burns 400,000 tons of wood chips per year. So when we cut down trees to burn wood, this impairs the forest ecosystems and it erodes the important benefits that forests provide, including, very important in Vermont, flood control, flood protection. And also this has a destructive impact on, biodiversity, animals, birds, that kind of thing. And this graphic shows the power of one mature canopy tree in relation to new large landscape trees. So we can talk about replacing trees, but one large mature canopy tree can store up to 8 tons of carbon compared to 465 new large landscape trees. And it takes decades for those new large landscape trees to equal the power of a mature canopy tree. Okay, let's see, where am I? Human health, okay. So another concern is human health. Burning wood emits particulate matter, nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, etc. You can see all these pollutants, and we know that these are harmful to human health. It's been studied by the EPA. We have some detailed information on what each of these pollutants does to human health. I mean, there's links between some of these chemicals and COPD, Parkinson's disease, definitely asthma, and where the pollutants are coming out, there's a higher concentration of these health problems. And that's particularly true in the Old North End here in Burlington and Winooski. And those neighborhoods tend to be lower income and more racially and ethnically diverse. So this becomes a climate justice issue when we're looking at the amount of pollutants that these groups are being exposed to. So the next concern is expense. And for the last 10 years, Burlington Electric statements show that McNeil has generated losses for 8 of the years and totaling more than $34 million over a 10-year period. And as 50% owner, Burlington Electric, again, a city utility, is responsible for 50% of these losses. And I think we as citizens and taxpayers should be concerned about this. And the cost of the power, like if you do a comparison of what a megawatt hour costs in general, the average is $39.50. That was in New England in 2024. It was forecasted to be higher in 2025, $55. But the net cost of generating power from McNeil was $96.42 per megawatt hour in 2025 and 98.70, almost double in 2024. So it is not economically advantageous. And then, so the McNeil plant is an old plant. It's 40 years old. It is only 26% efficient. It only runs about 50 to 60% of the time. It's frequently offline, either for maintenance or repairs, or because of market prices. The power that it produces is more expensive. And but unfortunately, Burlington Electric continues to invest in capital improvements for this plant beyond its anticipated useful life. And if the city council approves to move forward with the district energy project, that depends on McNeil, and it would continue our dependence on this aging, inefficient plant. So, and as far as we know, Burlington Electric has not done any evaluation of whether it makes sense to continue operating the plant or whether alternative sources of power would be more effective. And in general, we feel the policies around, Burlington's overall climate policy has some flaws. I mean, there's some great things like the net zero energy roadmap and electrifying things like heat and promoting, supporting, electric vehicles, et cetera. That's great. But when your electricity that you're running these things on is not reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but is actually increasing them, that is a big problem. And so the policy, again, there's a flaw there. We might be reducing our dependence on fossil fuels, but we are not cutting back on the amount of carbon that's being emitted into the atmosphere. And, another example of flawed policies is the carbon pollution impact fee. That applies to heating systems powered by fossil fuels, but not to so-called renewable systems such as burning wood. And these are still, adding significantly to greenhouse gas emissions. So anyway, I've already said this undercuts the potential benefits of electrification of buildings and vehicles. And we really must electrify and obtain power from low carbon sources such as hydropower, solar, and wind. And this little graphic on the next slide shows our vision. So if you're concerned about this, like we are, what can you do? And, advocate. We all need to let our opinions be known on this. And we feel that the city government really needs to change how the climate policy is, who's in charge of it, who oversees it. We feel like there are conflicts with Burlington Electric doing that. We feel like there should be somebody who's independent of Burlington Electric, who's taking responsibility for leading our city's climate policies. And we also feel that part of the policy or part of the plan needs to be shut down, that McNeil needs to be shut down by June of 2028. People are that we are concerned that this would mean doing this in a way that there's a just transition for the employees who currently work there. And we also feel that a plan needs to keep electric rates stable and ensure that we have adequate energy needs. So we're not saying just shut down McNeil. We acknowledge there's a planning process that needs to happen, and the city needs to take leadership and own this and start that process sooner rather than later. We're running out of time. We really should not be emitting any more carbon. And if you are concerned about this, you can connect with your city councilor. Counselors, Allie is one. I don't know if she's on anymore. But Merrick actually has been a very strong ally for us. So I think if you feel that he's taking a good stand, I think it's always good to be in touch with your city councilor and say, yay, thank you for, speaking up about this. I don't know Allie's position on this because she has not voiced it. But I think there's probably work there to get her up to speed on this. And if you writing a letter to the mayor saying you're concerned about this, attending a city council meeting, there is a public comment period at every city council meeting. You don't need to address only what's on the agenda. You can come and speak your mind about any issue that's of concern. We may come back in the fall and ask you, Ward 8 and other NPAs, to consider a resolution to send to city council on this issue. And if you want to get granular, you can be like Peter and go to electric commission meetings, and then finally get involved with 350 Vermont350.org or Stop Vermont Biomass. I guess we do have a clipboard that's going to go around.
Yep. You want to?
This is, even if you don't know that you want to be involved with these groups, if we have your email, we'll send you more information. We're hoping to do some more outreach. People have questions from these presentations. We only have 15 to 20 minutes. We can't address everything in that time period. So we might have a longer meeting citywide or even countywide in the near future. So if your name is on this, we'll contact you and let you know about it. If you have a question, we can do some outreach. And then we have this, it's a very small handout, but there's just one person down here. And if you want to take extra and give it to anybody that you know who might be concerned about this. So Peter, do you want to say anything?
Yeah, two things. So Burlington Electric Department has a website. So if you want to see what they say about it, go to their website. Two other things. The reason why we say 2028, because BED, Burlington Electric, is legally obligated to ISO New England. ISO New England is an entity that manages the generation and transmission of electricity throughout New England. So and it goes in a 3-year cycle. So if they're not allowed to close it down before 2028. That's the next logical. It's 3-year cycles. The final thing is that the state of Vermont in 2024 passed a law in climate legislation that says any new electric generation station powered by wood chips must be 60% efficient. And so if you built McNeil today, you couldn't because it's 26%. And there's some people who want to amend that state legislation to come up with a orderly transition to close McNeil and Rygate, which is another facility in Eastern Vermont because their current efficiency is way below what state of Vermont wants for any new facility.
So any questions or
Yeah.
comments?
What's your sense of the political climate? I mean, how long have you been at this? And I've heard about your work, but what's your sense of the responsiveness of city councils to begin with, or at the state level? And also putting other renewable energy, sources in place in the next couple of years. What's the realistic projection of the possibility of actually doing that?
So I'll answer your first question, or Peter, my read on this is our city council has a lot of really complicated, thorny issues that it's dealing with. And I think we're in an era where, because of what's happening in our country overall, the concern about climate has receded. So, and I think that is a mistake, and I think it's unfortunate because yes, we have to be worried about democracy. We have to be worried about people who are unhoused, the income disparity. But this also is, this is going to affect our future. If we keep having wildfires and floods and, it gets too hot to, come to Burlington and enjoy. If the lake, it heats up, it's going to have an overwhelming impact on our quality of life. So I don't really understand why the city council isn't addressing this. I think one thing is that they're getting all of their information from Burlington Electric. And I don't understand what Burlington Electric's what their interest is in holding on to McNeil. That's been somewhat mysterious to us. Maybe there is a forestry interest group that's putting pressure on. I don't really know, but I think the big issue is that Burlington Electric has controlled the information and has, whenever, when this issue comes before city council, there's a couple of things that get raised. One is electric rates will go up. Okay. The other is, will you lose good union jobs? And I think these are important concerns, but then that just tables the conversation. And we don't say, okay, how can we do it and make sure that, the rates don't go up? And how can we make sure that we do right by the workers who are there? So I think it's used as an excuse for not doing it. I don't know if that answers your question.
I haven't seen any or heard much activity from city council on this issue. It just doesn't seem to be on the agenda.
No, it's not. It's not really. And then your second question, I don't know.
The other thing is, so Burlington uses about 50 megawatts of power. That's what they need. And that McNeil produces 50 megawatts when they run. When they don't run, they get that 50 megawatts from ISO New England. And that could be natural gas. It could be hydropower. They contract it. They could probably contract with other renewable. So ISO New England has a capacity of about 25 to 27,000 megawatts. So the power's there. The other, I lost my train of thought. Oh yes, the other thing is the word renewable. So net zero roadmap for BED relies on renewable. The state of Michigan and Minnesota no longer uses renewables. They say low carbon. So when you burn wood, you produce CO2. So and that's the thing, is that we want them to realize that renewable is not low carbon. It produces CO2 as much as natural gas, oil, and coal. That's difficult because state government agency of natural resources, other entities say, well, wood is renewable, and so therefore we're not going to tax it, penalize it like fossil fuels. So you need a major change in the state government attitude towards renewable. I know that New York has said that using biomass is not renewable. And I think also in Mass, I'm not so sure. It's difficult issue. It's not going away in the near future. Yeah.
And I think the way that it gets before city council is if people are concerned, you raise your voice, you raise the concern. Yeah, and we're a small group of people. We'd love to have more people.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Any other questions?
Or comments.
I think there's potential for the university students to get involved with these groups. These are issues that students are passionate about, and I'll just throw that out there and keep that in mind for.
Yeah, there's actually at UVM, there's the Climate Action Council, the CAC.
Right.
And we have partnered with students, and students did a canvassing, the CAC did this year.
Right.
So maybe in Ward 8 a lot, and we haven't seen the results of that yet.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the younger you are, I mean, I don't have grandchildren, but I have children who are getting older. But you're going to be on this planet after I've been gone, for a while, some of us, and it's not going to be pretty. So we need to be doing something about this. And it's just, yeah, I don't know why we're not more upset about it. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay. So closing, what do we do for closing? Do we just adjourn the meeting? Is there any other?
I guess
Any other
so.
general comment or?
Actually, see you in September.
We leave. Okay, so again, I'm Charlie G. I live in Ward 2. I just have some notes here that I took during the meeting. My first note is that I suggested the interns because that's how the NPAs got rejuvenated. Okay, the NPAs in the 1990s were in a downward spiral and they weren't really active. And then suddenly, because of Peter Clavell again, that guy was better at getting federal money than any human being I've ever seen in my life. So there was this federal grant that there were only 14 awarded in the United States. And of course, Burlington got one. Okay. And so what happened is they had 2, 3, 4 AmeriCorps that did exactly this. So they went out into the neighborhoods, and that's how basically the people who preceded me in wards 2 and 3, they left around 2002. Then I got involved, but that's how it all came about, is because of those interns with that federal grant. Another one is that one survey question that I would have them use is I would have them say, whenever they talk to somebody, so where would you go to a meeting? So if the meetings were held in City Hall, would you go to that meeting? If they were held at UVM, would you go to that meeting? If they were held at Champlain or somewhere else, where would you go to the meeting? That would be a survey question that I would ask anybody that I spoke to. So what else do I have down here?
Charlie, we've, we talked about this, about the AmeriCorps or the.
Oh, did I?
Did we talk about this? I don't know. I can't remember, but there's some people around, maybe Gene or somebody who might remember this project in the 90s or 2000s, whenever it occurred. And I wonder if there are any records left behind by them, any report that they might have made based on their work. Would you know anything about?
So what I would do is I would ask Barbara to research the name of that federal grant. It had 4 words in it. One was neighborhood. I think sustainability was another one, but there were 4 words and it was in the 1990s, like 1998, I think. And that brought in the AmeriCorps Vistas who went door to door.
Okay,
So
all right.
then there might be records from what they learned.
Yeah, I'm curious. I think it'd be valuable to see what they came up with. Yeah. So,
Another thing is, so whenever you have steering committee meetings, anybody can go to the steering committee meeting. So in wards 2 and 3, we used to have like 1 or 2 guests at a lot of our steering committee meetings. Now, when it came down to a vote for something, they couldn't vote on something in a steering committee, but they had just as much influence on what happened at the steering committee meeting as anybody else. So I would encourage anybody who has any interest at all in being on the steering committee to go to your meetings, unless you're doing them all by text, which is a major problem. Another thing is this thing about Robert's rules. I totally discourage anybody from even attempting to look at them, avoid them. Anybody that wants to use them, tell them to leave the building. They're extremely complicated. And if one person in the room of 100 people really knows how to use them, they can control the entire meeting, the direction. I totally discourage anybody from ever using Robert's rules.
I don't think we have any expert knowledge of Robert's rules. Just, we make a motion to do something, we vote on something.
Okay, and the last thought I had was, so whenever anyone gives a presentation, have them summarize the whole thing in 2 or 3 minutes. And then if they want to do more, they can go from there. But get the message across in like 2 minutes. This is what our message is. Okay, then if they want to go through a 30-minute presentation with all the details. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie.
Charlie, he's our great resource, really. Thank you, Charlie, as always.
Okay, cool. I'll just make sure I got all the notes down. Yeah.
Well, I think if there's no other business, we'll adjourn the meeting.
I make a motion to.
Let's vote on it.
Before you leave, please sign if you're interested.
Yeah.
Sign up on our
Thank you.
sign up sheet.
Yeah.
I think I live like across the street from this power plant, so
Yeah.
I've